Dell Technologies and NVIDIA present the Cybersecurity Tapes.
Hi, I'm Steve Keniston.
And I'm Samir Shah. Steve and I are both cybersecurity specialists with Dell, and we're always looking for better ways to tell the cybersecurity story.
Which changes every day, and AI is only accelerating things. It's hard to keep up.
Which is exactly why we started doing the cybersecurity tapes.
It's a totally different approach. These aren't just talking heads or white papers dealing with a single capability, but fictionalized stories designed to humanize these threats and put them into real-life context for you to learn from.
In these stories, we investigate what happened, what went wrong, and the best way to address the challenges.
Samir and I will be back to discuss how this story stacks up against the reality of the modern cybersecurity landscape.
Without further ado, roll the tape.
The incidents portrayed in this episode of the Cybersecurity Tapes are fictitious. No identification with any persons, places, companies, or products is intended or should be inferred.
Good morning, everyone. It's a breath of fresh air to see so many familiar faces all together in the same room for once and not on a video call. Considering what's on the agenda today, I suppose that's an ironic thing to say right off the bat. I see they brought in a breakfast spread. Excellent. I didn't have time to eat this morning. What's good?
Mr. Waxler, about the agenda. No one here actually knows what this meeting is about. Now, I'm only saying this because you said just now that it was ironic. So that irony might have been lost on us, if that was supposed to be a joke.
Yes, apologies for the short notice. I'll see what's left over there. For what it's worth, that wasn't supposed to be a joke, but if it had been, rest assured I'm no stranger to a humorless room. Oh, one cheese Danish left with my name on it. Okay, so what happened was a news story popped up in my feed yesterday and it sort of sent a jolt of electricity through me. While I eat this cheese Danish, Mr. Bromwell, would you please dial in our guest of honor?
Thank you for calling Silverwood Heights Medical Center. If this is an emergency, please hang up and dial 911. For all other calls, feel free to speak normally. How may I assist you today?
I'm a new patient and I want to schedule an appointment.
I can help with that. Do you already have an account, or should we set one up now?
I already have an account.
Let's sign into your account. Please enter or say the last 4 digits of your social security number.
Mr. Bromwell, look away.
I don't understand. Can you please repeat that for me? Hello, David O'Donnell. Welcome back. You recently inquired about orthopedic surgeons. Do you want to make an appointment with one of our orthopedic surgeons?
No, it's something different.
What seems to be the trouble?
I think my toe might be broken.
For a broken bone, we recommend urgent care, which does not require an appointment. If you are unsure and need to confirm whether or not your toe is broken, first, we'll need to take an X-ray. Let me check availability at our imaging centers. Should I use your home address or your current location to find the nearest service provider?
Current location, please.
Great. Let me see what I can find. Okay, it looks like we can schedule an X-ray at the Silverwood Heights Medical Center Central Campus today at 10:15 a.m. Will that work?
Yes, that should be fine.
Great. Your appointment is confirmed. Your patient information has been forwarded to the office. In the meantime, try to keep your foot elevated and apply ice to reduce any swelling. Is there anything else I can help with today?
Yes, can you please cancel my appointment for 10:15 a.m. this morning at the Silverwood Heights Medical Center Central Campus? My toe is feeling much better. Thank you.
I'm glad to hear you're feeling better. Your appointment has been canceled. Is there anything else I can help with today?
No, thank you. Mr. Bromwell, you can hang up. So, what do you think?
Think about what exactly? If you think your toe might be broken, you should get an X-ray. No question. I'd be happy to drive you.
My toe is fine. That was just for a demonstration. Let me clarify. I want Waxler Healthcare Systems to implement a Gen AI model for patient logistics. What I do not want is to always be playing catch-up with our competition. I jotted down some notes. For them, benefits included, let's see, the ability to predict and prevent scheduling conflicts, optimization and automation of resource allocation, reduced wait times, which in turn led to a huge increase in patient satisfaction, which led to a sizable spike in new patients, many of which I imagine were patients we lost. So in short, I want in. Anderson, you're the CIO. What's our current solution?
Solution is a generous word for it. Our current system is mostly rule-based and reactive, relying on manual inputs by trained staff. Definitely a choke point that creates bottlenecks and miscommunication between departments.
That's what I thought. Let's cut to the chase. I want this to happen, so when can we get it on its feet and operational?
You're serious? Well, there are a lot of unknowns. We all literally just heard about this, and there are a ton of considerations to work through before I could even think of answering that question with any confidence. Knowing what I know right now about Gen AI deployment, ballpark 6 months, maybe a year?
I need it done by the end of the quarter.
I see.
I'm thinking that rolling this out will boost the stock price a little and take some of the spotlight off the areas where we've struggled recently. So what are those considerations we need to work through? I'll have them bring in lunch.
The end of the quarter is... Okay, wow, less than about 9 weeks away. I was this close in the room to telling the CEO I'm sorry, but it's just not possible. Not on this timeline. But I didn't really know if that was true or not. On more than one occasion, this IT team has proven itself capable of miracles. And that's what we're going to need here.
To get something up on its feet as fast as possible, maybe we should look at open source options. Something a little more plug and play.
I'm not so sure about that. We should talk about security first. Patient data is the most private kind of data there is, and HIPAA compliance isn't a request. Whatever we choose to go with, we'll need to have access to patient information. I know all options are on the table right now, but an off-the-shelf solution feels like the perfect Trojan horse to me for a cyber attack.
Yes, but building something from scratch on a 10-week timeline is unrealistic.
Can we reach out to the IT team over at Silverwood Heights Medical Center? Ask them how they went about it?
We can, and we will. I know the CTO over there. Turns out their process wasn't nearly as smooth as that news article made it out to be. After a couple of painful lessons, they wound up bringing in some reinforcements to right the ship, a cybersecurity consultant. I set up a meeting with that same consultant the first thing tomorrow morning, but I don't want us to go in cold. What are our limitations here? What are the rules we need to play by? Let's go around the room. What's indispensable, non-negotiable?
You're really putting me on the spot here. Compliance?
Yes, excellent.
Yeah, it's got to be compliance. Number one, no matter what we end up going with, it will need to adhere to HIPAA and high-tech law.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else?
Performance. Split-second decision-making happens in our operating rooms. Same goes here. Maybe it's not a priority from a security perspective, but it's indispensable.
Absolutely. It is. All right. What else do you got?
I'm blanking on what to call it. Seamlessness, like a smooth transition. Integration. That's the word. It has to play nice with the existing EHR system, the electronic health records. If we have to go into that code, consider the timeline tripled.
Right. And increased training time on top of that. Doctors, nurses, they all need to be up to speed on day one. We don't really have the luxury of a slow rollout. Literally, lives are at stake.
To recap, smooth seamlessness, integrating the new with the old, easy to learn. I'll add scalability, which opens up another threat surface, because whether we host this thing on premises or not, we will almost certainly need some additional cloud infrastructure to grow as we do. Getting to be a long list. Anything else?
It needs to work.
Let's put that one at the top of the list.
It needs to be done in 9 weeks.
Also true. But is it impossible?
So, Samir, you know what's interesting? I found that when they were in a large group talking with the CEO, they said security should be a priority. However, when they broke off into the separate room with the CIO and they said, okay, what are the top things we need? And they listed a bunch of things. And the very first thing they listed was compliance. And I was a little shocked the same person didn't pipe up and use the word security. This left me scratching my head. Do you think sometimes that organizations think compliance is security?
I'm with you. I was a little surprised. And anytime I don't hear security being discussed explicitly, I get nervous. Now, on the flip side of that, it's quite possible that in this medical space, compliance encompasses security, especially when we're thinking about things like HIPAA, where security is just, inherently and intrinsically intertwined with compliance. But I would like to hear security being discussed very clearly and distinctly as its own goal.
Well said.
I think it's clear, and we're seeing a lot of news about this now, that AI workloads, and especially Gen AI and the language models that drive them, have created new sorts of business risk that didn't exist before. So let's not just assume that security falls under the umbrella of compliance, or that by achieving compliance, we've achieved security. They're obviously very closely related, but no assumptions. Let's be clear and let's be distinct, and let's give security the due that it deserves, especially in this ever evolving, quickly evolving AI environment.
The short version, it's possible, but you're going to need some backup. Experts and partners that live and breathe AI and cybersecurity, which can free up your team to focus on integration with Waxler's existing network infrastructure and onboarding everyone in the organization that will interface with the new Gen AI system, which alone could take several weeks.
Aren't you that expert? Our partner?
Yes, but my work is strategy and guidance. You'll also need a team that rolls up their sleeves and actually puts our plan into practice. Engineers. You know the old adage, speed, price, or quality. Realistically, you can only pick two.
So, how much is this going to cost?
From what I've heard, speed and quality are your priorities. But I will say, what we did over at Silverwood Heights Medical Center, the results vastly outweighed the investment.
Forgive me if this is rude, but what's the point of having an internal IT team if we need a third party to get the results we want?
Again, speed, price, or quality. This is a huge undertaking, but it's not going to replace the day-to-day IT operations. Integrating Gen AI into your operations is quickly becoming necessary to keep pace with your competition, but it's a double-edged sword because Gen AI itself is uncharted territory and will introduce new attack surfaces for hackers. Poisoning the AI training data to provide false or damaging information, introducing cloud-based systems from external providers. The list goes on.
I hear you. What partner did they go with?
In the end, what got them over the finish line was AI Factory. It's a collaboration between Dell and NVIDIA. They're like a custom tailor for AI solutions exactly like this.
Okay, so how much time and energy was wasted before Silverwood Medical finally brought them in?
It took too long, and unfortunately, it took them getting hacked. A minor hack, but any hack sets off the alarm bells. Or I guess in this case, sirens.
Like ambulance sirens? What happened?
Every business is on its own path to AI. And Dell AI Factory with NVIDIA can provide you with the broadest portfolio, allowing you to quickly implement the AI you need, help keep your data secure, and get the flexibility to scale as you grow. So no matter what business you're in, you can keep moving forward.
Unit 6, do you copy?
Go for 6.
Code 1, possible cardiac arrest. Sending you the address now.
Address received. Dispatch, this has us routing across town to the north location. Please confirm.
That's what I have on my screen.
Must be a backup at the main hospital.
But we're south. Dispatch, what about the south location?
Where you need to go first is to the patient. I'll notify you if anything changes.
Copy that. How's our patient looking back there?
Stable. Why have we stopped moving?
I don't know. The drop-off zone is blocked with stalled cars and other ambulances. Dispatch, this is Unit 6. Do you copy? Dispatch, do you copy? We have arrived at...
Let me guess, you've arrived at the North Medical Center and are stuck in traffic.
What's going on? The patient is stable but needs medical attention we are not set up for in the ambulance. Please advise.
There's been some routing error. All ambulances in the metro area have been directed to that location. If you're not already boxed in and your patient is stable, get out of there and head to the Central Medical Center. I just got off the phone with them and got the all clear to send patients over.
So much for the new automated system. Okay, we're rerouting to Central. ETA 20 minutes.
Make it 15.
I see.
Thankfully, no one suffered any major injuries during the chaos. Except, of course, Silverwood Heights Medical Center.
What was the outcome? How did they respond?
How they responded isn't the same answer as how they should have responded. Now they have a proper response plan and internal training program in place. That's the silver lining here. After Silverwood Heights brought me in, it took even more time and energy to vet potential partners and develop that response plan. That's extra time you can't afford to waste. So, their loss is your gain.
Is this normal, sharing operational information like this from a competitor?
Sure, unless it's proprietary or undisclosed already. When it comes to cybersecurity, we have to work together.
Okay. So, how do we get started?
So, Samir, this was a really great story. I thought it was really interesting. You know, I don't think that a lot of folks understand when they're putting these Gen AI solutions in place that in a lot of organizations, folks want to have a Gen AI solution because they know that's what it takes to be competitive these days. But sometimes I don't know if a lot of organizations think end to end the situations that can happen. So in this example, it really was life and death because the ambulance who had a patient might not have made it to the next hospital in time. So you got to kind of pay attention to that, right?
Yeah, I definitely think organizations need to look at all of the risks and be a little imaginative. Looking 2, 3, 4 steps down the line is what the worst case scenario could be, because, you know, even if we think about a utility, let's say an electric company that's using a Gen AI solution to help customers with billing issues, if that were to somehow be hacked and, you know, again, I'm using my imagination here, but if that were to get hacked and potentially impact the ability of the utility to provide electricity to its customers, and you have senior living facilities and hospitals and other critical care components tied into that electricity, then obviously it becomes a life or death situation. So organizations, especially those that have operations that relate to critical infrastructure, should be thinking about what are the worst case scenario situations that can happen, even from potentially seemingly harmless or unrelated systems.
Yeah, I definitely think you have to be creative and use your imagination. So I don't think that's unrealistic at all. In this particular episode, I'm glad we have Maria back again. She's the queen of the response plan, and she was talking about that. It goes to show, for this example, having a good response plan can be helpful before you even know you might need it, right? I mean, they were in the process of building theirs. They leaned on the fact that Silverwood Heights had an issue. So the fact that they have one in place meant that they could utilize it before anything more critical happened.
Definitely. And these plans have to be put in place in advance. And I think most organizations today are thinking along the lines and maybe have some semblance of a plan, or at least there's been a thought process. But that's, you know, thinking through it or having a sense of what the plan would be, or even outlining some basic steps, is a lot different than having a thorough, well-rehearsed plan that's been practiced and vetted throughout the organization and maintained and updated. I think there's still a major gap there. So this situation illustrated the importance of it, and I can only stress it more and continue to stress it, that organizations have to be prepared with a plan in place, knowing full well that even the best laid plans probably aren't going to be enough. They never are, but you're so much further ahead having thought through in advance who does what, and it's easier to alternate or deviate from a fundamentally strong plan than it is to not have one and be flying by the seat of your pants in a crisis situation.
You're so right on, right? It gives you a good starting point. You're probably going to need to iterate on that plan over time, especially as you practice it, but you got to have some place to start.
One of the good things to note here is that they are leveraging the Dell NVIDIA AI factory, which provides basically infrastructure to allow organizations to build their AI workloads and AI applications. So it's kind of like giving you everything, all the tools you need in a box. And that box already has a ton of built-in security features included in it. So they're starting out ahead of the game just by utilizing the Dell NVIDIA AI factory. Of course, security doesn't end there, but it's a great place to start.
And that kind of leads me to, Maria closed out the episode with the fact that sharing information and communication, right, and working together. We've talked about this a number of times, right? The more people can talk about situations they come up with, situations they have, it can add to the capabilities they put in place to secure their business. It can put new capabilities into their IR plans so that they can make sure they're capturing things when things do go awry, because they're going to, and that's okay, right? But I really like the fact that she reiterates that we really need to work together as a community. And when I say community, I mean a community of cyber experts to rise all boats.
Yep, I agree, especially in this ever-evolving, quickly evolving AI environment.
This episode of the Cybersecurity Tapes was produced by Dell Technologies and NVIDIA. The executive producers were Steve Keniston and Samir Shah. It was written by Steve Keniston, Samir Shah, Max Robidoux, Bradley Parrott, and Mike Wiebe. Edited by Tim Edwards and Bradley Parrott. Featuring performances by Justin Peed, Mary Evans, Oscar Salazar, Christiana Sula, and Danu Uribe. Sound design by Andy Slater. If you enjoyed this episode of the Cybersecurity Tapes, please like, subscribe, and leave us a review. Or visit the cybersecuritytapes.com to learn more.